Hey guys, it's Elle. Welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to be doing my February wrap-up. So February, I was doing really good in the beginning of the month, and then I started rereading the ACOTAR series, and I just got sucked in and couldn't stop reading them. And I take kind of like a couple days in between reading, especially ACOMAF, because I was just like so excited to get back into this world and to savor it. And so that kind of slowed down my reading a little bit. I read, I think I read 11 books. If I'm correct, I think I read 11 books, but I'm super excited to share all of these books with you. So let's get right into it. The first book I want to share with you is The Penalty Box by Odette Stone. So this one was so good. I binge read this series in January and February, and this one particularly is about Micah, and he is a hockey player on the Vancouver Wolves, I think, and he has a lot of bad rep right now in the media, and so his like PR people said you need to be in a relationship or marry someone, and so he fake marries his like assistant in PR, and our heroine agrees to do it because she needs money, and he is just like, okay, we'll get married. And he takes it as a real marriage. Like, he, no joke, is like, this is a real marriage. I know this is a fake marriage, but like, I'm treating this as real, and you are my wife. And it is so good. I really liked it. I gave this one 5 stars. It was amazing. Definitely, I think, my favorite in the series. And so they have to live together, and there's a suspense because the money that she needs is like she's kind of being like stalked, and creepy things keep happening to her at their house, and he's very protective over her, and I just really loved it. He's also Russian, and I just loved listening to the audio of this one. It was really good, and I just loved these characters. It was just such a good, solid, fake dating sports romance. I loved it. I give it 5 stars. It was so good. Then I read Blind Side by Kandi Steiner. So I actually read this for a sports romance reading vlog. I'll link it down below. I had so much fun with that vlog, and I read some amazing books. So I think I gave this one 4.55 stars. This is a fake dating sports romance set in college. And so our heroine is like the PR person slash like public speaking person for this college football team, and the hero's on the football team, and he just broke up with his high school sweetheart. Well, she broke up with him, and he wants to get her back, and the heroine really wants to go after this guy, but she is not very experienced with relationships and guys, and so they make a pact where they will fake date so each of them can get the person they want. Then they end up falling in love in the process, and I really liked Clay's character. Even sometimes when, you know, we knew they were fake dating, he would like treat it kind of as like they really are together, and he got very possessive over her. And I just loved how he really cared about the heroine, and he would like, she loved romance novels, and he would read her romance novels and read the highlighted parts of it to like learn what she liked, and it was really good. And I really enjoyed this one. If you want to hear more of my thoughts, definitely go check out that video. I'll link it down below, but I really enjoyed Blind Side. The next book I read was 5 Rounds. This is another book that I read for that reading vlog, and I love this one. I give it 5 stars. This is an MMM spicy hate to love romance, and so our heroine gets kicked out of her apartment, and she needs to find somewhere to stay, and her best friend, I think it's Jax, he's like, well, why don't you stay with me for a couple weeks until you get on your feet? And she's like, okay. And Jax's roommate is the hero, and the hero and heroine absolutely hate each other. They've hated each other for a really long time, and so she has to end up staying with Tristan, the hero, and while her best friend Jax is like off on a work trip, and they have to learn to live together, and it is so funny. She pranks him, he pranks her. They have this like hate to love, like angsty chemistry, And he is an MMA fighter, but she's also trains at the same gym as him, and she's into fighting, and I think like jiu-jitsu also. And that was really fun to see her fighting in like the gym and stuff. I really, really liked that. And I just really love their relationship. It's very, very spicy. I loved the scenes in this one. And this, y'all, this is the author's debut novel, and it was so good for her first book. I was so surprised when I saw that because this book is so freaking good. Not saying like debut authors can't have amazing first books, but sometimes, you know, the first book they're getting into writing and whatever, but I just love this so much. It was so much fun. And I cannot wait to continue on with this series. The next one is a friends to lovers romance, and I am really, really excited to read that one. The next book I want to talk about is Whispers of You by Catherine Cowles. So this is a second chance small town romance with some suspense. So our heroine and hero were together in high school, and something happens one night where the heroine gets really badly hurt, and like it's a big thing that happens in their small town. And so the hero basically freaks out and kind of runs away from his life and her, because he was so triggered by what happened to her. And so now it's like 10 years later, and he's coming back to the small town that they grew up in. She still lives there, and he's going to like visit his family, but then the heroine starts getting some creepy things start happening with her, and so he starts to get protective again and getting back into her life. And it's just so good. I really like this one. I gave this one 5 stars. I loved how, you know, he had a lot of self-doubt, and he just had to realize, you know, like she, like I can't blame myself for something that happened out of my control, and I really like that. And I love how the heroine, there was this one quote where she was like, I'm not mad at you for when you left. I'm mad at you for staying gone for 10 years, for the past 10 years. Like basically like, I'm not mad that you left me. I'm mad that you stayed away, and I'm not mad about like what happened. And I really like that, and there was a lot more suspense in this one, and it was just really fun. She's also like the 911 caller person, like when you call 911, she's the one on the other line, and so that was kind of cool to see. And I love the setup of all of the characters in this town, and his family and his brothers. So I'm really excited for this one, and this new series that she is starting, and I cannot wait to continue on with it. I really, really enjoyed this first book. Definitely go check it out. This is the perfect time to start this series before like all of the releases come out. But maybe you like to binge series, I don't know. But definitely go check this one out. I really, really enjoyed it. And next book I have is High Risk Rookie by Odette Sohn. So this is the 4th and final book in this series, like the Vancouver Wolves series. And this one was fun. I think this was probably my least favorite one in this series, but I still gave it 5 stars. So our hero and heroine, our heroine is older, so it's kind of like an age gap romance a little bit, and she is like this major sports agent, and she goes to go visit the hero and kind of recruit him, but then they end up getting married that night. And so the next day they wake up and they're like, oh crap, we're married to each other, and she's starting to recruit him for the hockey team, and so they're like, we have to tell absolutely no one about our fake marriage, or, you know, our shotgun wedding. And so they have to work together, and they start kind of catching feelings for each other. He's a little bit younger than her, and she's dealing with a lot with her family, and that was a little bit suspensey. But I really like this one, and how she had to help him, you know, achieve the goals he wanted, but he was also there for her. And I did really enjoy this one. I listened to it on audio. This whole series is on Hoopla, and I highly recommend listening to the audios. They're so easy to listen to, and I really loved the audios for this whole series. That's how I read it. I just binge read all of the audios, and it was such a great experience. Highly recommend this series. I really, really enjoyed it. And this one was really good for a 4th and final book. And yeah, I just really love this series. You should definitely go check it out if you want some hockey romances. But yeah, I really enjoyed this one. The next book I read was Pestilence by Laura Thalassa. So I actually reread this book and I have it on my shelves, but it was too hard to get out. It's at like the bottom of my shelf and I just like, I cannot get that right now. But I love this series, and Pestilence I think is my favorite in this series. It's the Four Horsemen series. And basically the whole series is about the four horsemen coming to Earth and them falling in love with human women, and it's really fun. So this first book, she basically tries, it's hate to love, she tries to kill him and he can't die, so he wakes up and basically kidnaps her and takes her on this trek around, you know, the world, like basically spreading disease. And so at first he like hates her and it's pretty funny, but then he slowly starts to realize he's like catching feelings for her, and he is definitely like, touch her and you'll die. Like, she can only be with me. Like, I just really love Pestilence, and I love how innocent, like naive he can be, because he's also a virgin, and I really like that spin on this book. And this series is just so much fun. If you want like a post-apocalyptic series to binge, I highly recommend this one. I think this series is still in KU, but I'm not sure. But it's so good. I gave it 5 stars again. Just really, really enjoyed my reread. The next book I read was The Red Herring by Kalia Reed. So I got an e-arc of this book to read for a review, and I'm so thankful to Kalia Reed and her team. I loved this series so much. I love the Belgrave Dynasty series, and I was so excited for Asa and Nat's story. We waited like a year and a half for this story to come out because the author was dealing with some things in her personal life, and I was just dying to read this book, and I really, really liked it. I think I gave it 4.5 stars because I did feel like it was a little long, but this is the continuation of Asa and Nat's story, and their story has a lot of pining. It is second chance, and Asa and Nat have always, you know, been after one another, and this is also a historical romance series set in like the 1910s to like 1930s, and so they have always, like, you know, been drawn to each other, and Asa was Nat's older brother's best friend, and they just, it's basically like, you know, right person, wrong time, and Asa really pushed her away a lot because he didn't want to break bonds in her family and make them uncomfortable, and he just thought that they just couldn't ever be together, but he wanted to be together, and so he pushed her away so much that she ended up marrying someone else, and then it's years later and she's not married to that person anymore, and she finds out that he is getting married, and so she decides to go stop his wedding, and it's very angsty, second chance, and I loved this conclusion to this story. There's a lot of suspense in this one from the cliffhanger of the last book, and I really, really enjoyed this one, so definitely go check this series out if you want angsty, pining, just like all-consuming love. It's just so amazing, and I love all of the characters in this series. The next book I want to share with you is Dare to be a Duchess by Sapna Bog. So I listened to this on audio on my Hoopla, and I really enjoyed it. I gave it 5 stars. So our heroine is half Indian, half English, and she has to deal with a lot of racism and criticism in high society, and she's best friends with the daughter of a duke, and her best friend's older brother always is like, you're always getting into trouble, like both of them. And one night when they're at this like ball, or I think it's a ball, and she the best friend wants to go off with this other guy, and so our heroine has to distract the hero, and she ends up kissing him, and he's so surprised and just flabbergasted, and he kisses her back, and so they kind of have this like enemies to lovers kind of thing, and they just have this insane chemistry for each other, and he kind of tries to push her away because he just thinks that they could never be together. And I understand why the author did it, but he kind of made it about her social class and her race, and I didn't really like that, how the hero did that, but I understand of why you know, in the story's grand scheme of things. But that was kind of his mother did that a lot, was like, you can't be with her because she's half Indian or whatever. But they just had so much chemistry, and I really, really liked that. And they couldn't keep each other's, you know, their hands off of each other, and he would be very jealous if she, you know, would try to go off with like another guy. And this was pretty spicy also. This is an indie romance, and I just really enjoyed it. I thought it was really good, and I loved the representation in this book. And I really recommend the audio. I really enjoyed that, and I cannot wait to read more of this series and more from this author. But I really enjoyed that one. I give it 5 stars. Next book I read was, I reread sort of my reread for ACOTAR, the ACOTAR series. So I reread A Court of Thorns and Roses. I give it 5 stars again. I just really love this book, and how, you know, Sarah J. Maas sets up the scene, and there were all of these little Easter eggs that I just like remember now, and from reading the whole series through now and seeing the little Easter eggs she planted, I just love it. I love Easter eggs. And so this whole series is about Feyre. And she is a human, and she accidentally kills a wolf, and she gets taken by a Fey High Lord, and so she has to, you know, like pay penance for killing this wolf who was actually a Fey. And so he takes her. It's kind of, the way I would describe this series is Beauty and the Beast retelling, also a little bit of Hades and Persephone. And so she gets taken with him, and she has to live with him, and she starts to fall in love with him, and then a lot of action starts to happen. And I just love this series, and that's the first book, and it's so good. I really love the different like fairy tale kind of retellings that Sarah puts in this book, in this series, and I think it's really fun. But if you haven't read this series yet, you need to. It is so freaking good. I just loved my reread of this. And just seeing all of the Easter eggs and the things to come, and I just love this series so much. Saint by Sierra Simone. I think I'm going to give this one 4 stars. I really did enjoy it. There were some things that I didn't love about the book. So this book is the 3rd book in the Priesthood series, or Priest-series. I can't remember what the actual series is called. But it is MM, so one of our heroes, Aiden, Aiden and Tyler were together, and basically were soulmates. And one night, Aiden just like off the fly decides to go and become a monk, and he doesn't really give any explanation to Tyler, and it's just like, you know, I gotta go and do my own thing, and Tyler is absolutely heartbroken. And so now it's 5 years later, and Aiden is still a monk, and Tyler comes to visit him at the monastery and kind of get a vision into his life, and also tell him that he is engaged to somebody else. And that really breaks Aiden, and but he knows that he wants to become a monk. And I don't know if this is a spoiler or not. But I do want to give a disclaimer for this book that it deals heavily with mental health, and the death of somebody who died by suicide, and like sexual abuse in religion, and that's a big part of this book. Especially one of the characters' mental health. And so Tyler comes back and kind of gets a vision into Aiden's life and what he's been doing. And then Tyler starts to work at the monastery because he's doing a newspaper article piece or something. And so he's now in the vicinity of Aiden all the time, and all of these old feelings are coming back up. And they kind of rekindle their romance, and it's really good. I really, really love their romance and how much they cared for each other and had all these little quirks that made them work together. The things that I did not love about this book was, I feel like with Aiden's perspective, we got a lot of inner dialogue, and at times that was kind of boring to me, and this book did feel a little bit long to me. Like sometimes I was a little bit bored through the audio. And the other thing was just that there was so much talk about his religion and different things in the monastery and the religion of Catholicism. And I'm personally not Catholic, but I did enjoy some of the like religious aspects and learning about Catholicism, but some of it was a little bit too much for me, and I felt like it kind of overcrowded the story or overshadowed it, even though a big part of the story is his religion. So that was a kind of turnoff for me and made me a little bored at times. But I really loved the overall, you know, meaning and message of this book, and I thought it was very powerful, the ending. And I just really like it. I thought it was a good conclusion to the series. My favorite is definitely Sinner, which is the second book. I just love that book so much. But Sierra Simone is amazing at writing romance, and I think she is such a great writer, and I can't wait to read more from her and from her other series, but I really enjoyed this final conclusion to this series. The last book I'm going to talk about is A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. So I read, this was a reread for me, and I gave it 5 stars again. I just love this book so much. I love these characters so much. It's just one of my favorite series ever, and it's so good, and I can't really talk about this book that much because it's major spoilers if you haven't read it yet, but just know it is so good, and I'm currently reading A Court, ACOWAR, and I'm loving my reread of that. This is my first time rereading that like half of like this book onward. Like I've reread ACOTAR a couple of times, but I am just loving my reread of this whole series. It is just so nostalgic, and I'm just loving it. But such a good series. Definitely read it if you haven't read it yet. Alright, well that is the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed listening to me talk about all of the books that I read in February. I read some pretty good books, and I'm very excited for March and to read so much more, hopefully a lot more historicals, because I only read maybe like 2 historicals, but I want to thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you guys soon. Bye.